Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. It's KLOS New and Approved. I'm really excited to have my guest here with me, who is a guy that I've loved since high school. I actually went with a Generation X t-shirt that I'd made to my high school graduation rehearsal representing Billy's first band. And that's how much I've been a fan all these years. So great to have you here. It's Billy Idol. Billy, good to see you, man.
Fantastic, Matt. It's great to see you.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this new EP, we're really excited about it, this Roadside EP. And you know, this single, Bitter Taste, is such a great song. I love the feel of it. I want to talk to you about that because I know the song is about kind of this turning point in your life where, you know, when you went through that near fatal motorcycle accident. Tell me about writing the song.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were sort of writing this EP at the sort of beginning of the pandemic. It was like March, June 2020, so didn't quite know what was going to happen with it, or, you know, I could see that it was affecting people differently, but I could tell it, you know, it was a difficult time, and but, you know, at the same time, you know, writing songs, I like to sort of let events sink in, you know, marinate, and then they come out. When they do come out, you know, you get something really special. So I didn't exactly want to write something about the pandemic immediately. But I thought, well, what can I write about that was a bit of a, you know, horrible time in my life, a bit of a confusing time, a painful time, a time where I had to overcome something massive, where I wasn't sure how my life was going to change my life. It was, you know, and I thought, well, that was an event that maybe if I write about that, it would resonate with people. So I wrote about the Bitter Taste. Really, is about the motorcycle accident and the kind of the aftermath of it and everything.
I love that you have this 4-song EP coming out. There's a song called Rita Hayworth, too, and I'm just pumped to hear the rest of the songs on the EP. Billy, it's an amazing journey that you've taken. The first time I interviewed you was in the early 1980s over at Rutgers University in New Jersey. You were playing for the first solo album. It was great. I remember that day like it's yesterday. And it's a long time ago, but it was just, you were so good live. And one of the things from going to see you go from the clubs to like bigger rooms like that to arenas and just kind of watching your journey. When you look back on it, it's been such an incredible trip. Like, remember when you first came to America and decided you were going to go solo and left Generation X? What was that like? Was there ever a moment when you were like, wow, I'm going to New York, I'm starting new? Were you completely excited to get there? Was there ever any hesitation, or were you just, I'm moving forward?
Well, that's it. It was a combination of factors. I mean, yes, there's a part of me that was super excited to be like going to New York, to where I knew there were other like-minded people because of punk rock coming from there, and just the history of music, rock and roll, and everything, soul music, and everything coming out of New York. It was a massive place to go. At the same time, yeah, kind of changing countries, you know, changing groups, and yeah, leaving my songwriting partner, Tony James, behind, you know, not quite knowing who I was going to find, what was going to happen. So I was very excited and, you know, wow. And at that same time, there's a bit of trepidation. So I'm kind of dealing with kind of conflicting emotions. You know?
Yeah.
But I was excited, I was super excited.
Yeah, and you know, being a DJ in the alternative clubs at that period of time, Dancing with Myself, that 12-inch version, yeah, it was everywhere, and people loved it. It just like it was so infectious, and that came over, and it was, you know, it made that calling card from the Gen X Kiss Me Deadly album over to you know, put on your solo EP, which was a great way to introduce you to people. As you look back now, and you're still with Steve Stevens. Steve is such a great guitarist, and just you two, it's like that. You've got that perfect partnership in rock and roll. Tell me about that, all those years with Steve. Can you think back to that first day that you met Steve and you knew you wanted him to be your guitarist?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was lucky because I had a manager, Bill O'Coin, who knew Steve. So we met, you know, in the O'Coin offices and everything. And but, you know, right from the start, I could tell that Steve was somebody who I could work with. You know, he just seemed, you know, like a great guy. And what we initially just said was, I had done an EP back then, Don't Stop, and it had Moni Moni on it. It was a dance version of it.
Right.
And I had to get a band together. So you know, we had a long chat, you know, about, you know, what we wanted to do and where we were going to go and all this stuff. But I said in the end, you know, man, really, I need to get a band together to play this EP and just to play, you know, some Gen X stuff and sort of write new songs. What about if we just put a band together, and if we enjoyed doing that, and let's see what happens. Let's just do that, and if we're enjoying it, we'll keep playing together. And that's kind of exactly what happened. And then here we are a million years later, 40 years later, I think it is, and but it's great. You know, we've really, I don't know, it's been fantastic because with Steve, I can go anywhere. He can play anything, you know, and he can play anything and mean it as well. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's great. You know, Bitter Taste, the vibe of the song, which is so cool about it, is it almost has that feel like what Johnny Cash was doing before he, you know, before he passed away in those American recordings. And I love it because your voice lends itself in so many ways to so many different styles. I mean, that's because your roots were in rock and punk in so many ways. But can you go back and talk to me about when you formed Generation X originally? Did you see yourself being in music? Is it something? Was it a dream for you to do that? I know you said punk rock might only last 6 months, but did you really? Is this where you wanted to be?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was always a bit of a dream, you know, to get into music and a band or whatever. And we had punk rock open this kind of door where you got a chance to do it, you know. And but yeah, I mean. Initially, yeah, you just thought it was only going to last 6 months, a year, 2 years. But yeah, your dream was to do it. You know, you wanted to do it your whole life, really. And this is what we wanted, as some sort of artistic life, something that went beyond the sort of daily grind, really. I mean, England was going through a terrible depression in the mid-70s, so you know, you couldn't get a job. It didn't matter what qualifications you had, the jobs just weren't there. So in a way, it meant you had to do the thing you loved, and what we loved was music, and we loved where punk rock was going. And so it was like, you know, if it only lasts 6 months, let's do it. If it only lasts a year, let's do it. If it lasts 2 years, let's just do it. And at least we'll have done something we loved. And then look what happened, because you did the thing you loved. It's carried on, and look, I'm here a million years later. It's fantastic.
It's amazing. And when you guys were starting out with the punk rock thing, it had that energy of like the Great British Invasion music, you know, like the Who, the Kinks, like all. It was just like really kicking the door down, and just that marriage. You know, a lot of people don't always realize, which was something that I found out later, was that you wrote most of the music to those Generation X songs.
Yeah, Tony James wrote the lyrics, actually. But some I wrote a couple of lyrics, but mainly it was Tony. And yeah, I wrote the sort of music, the tunes and the element, you know, the chords and everything. I was really into it, you know.
Because everybody would think it was the opposite. They'd always think, well, he's a singer, he's probably writing these words. And Tony, when you saw your names on the credits, and I was like, wow. When I found that out, I thought that was genius.
The other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good fun. Yeah, Tony would write some lyrics, or we would sometimes chat about them, you know, what he was going to do, but he would go off and come up with it, and then I would sit with the lyrics and you know, write the music to it. And it was fun, though. I really enjoyed it. I liked his lyrics. They were great, you know. Yeah. And yeah, they could speak for me at that time. They really could. And then later on, though, when I did go solo, that was really because, well, in the end, I had to write my own lyrics, you know. So
yeah, and then you came up with a song like "White Wedding," which was so brilliant and inspired by us, you know, your sister, and just things that were going on in general, which is an incredible thing. When you saw that song take off, I mean, and Chrysalis called you and said, "Hey, this thing is happening." What was that experience like?
Well, it was incredibly exciting. I mean, you know, for me, America was this, you know, it's the home of rock and roll. So, of course, to be able to come here and have any sort of success, and I'd been wondering, you know, would I connect at all, you know, with people? Because, yeah, at the time when I very first came over, you know, the bands that were at the top of the charts in America, it was like REO Speedwagon and people. It was nothing like what I was doing. So, but at the same time, when I saw White Wedding and start to have an effect and start to grab people, and then the young people were seeing MTV and they're calling up the radio stations, and we were telling, you know, and then we were on the radio. So it was just watching this kind of domino thing happen was, over the years, was just so exciting. I mean, you can't imagine. And then watching America get excited, this place that I'd lived here as a little boy when I was, you know, two and a half till 5. I'd lived in America, Long Island. So to be able to come back here and do some music that stuck, it was just incredible. I couldn't have imagined it. It was like a dream come true. You know?
Yeah, that's got to be amazing. I mean, and then you know, Hot in the City was a big hit off that record as well. Then Rebel Yell, like really, that's when things started to explode and connect with the songs on that record. I mean, things like, obviously, you know, Eyes Without a Face was a beautiful song. It was an incredibly well-written song that still holds up. Talk to me about, at that moment, you really started to see it going from, you know, playing, you had a natural progression. You went from clubs to places that were a little bigger. Like I remember seeing you in colleges and clubs both. And then next thing you know, you're playing arenas. Tell me about the excitement of when Rebel Yell just connected with the entire country here.
Yeah, initially we were still on a club tour with the beginning of Rebel Yell, but as Rebel Yell kind of took off, and then Eyes Without a Face really did well. I think at one point we were number 6 in the charts with the album, number 4 with the single, and then so we were playing theatres then, and then we went from theatres to by the end of the year we were playing in arenas. So just that move was just gigantic, and then watching the excitement of the fans and people going crazy, and then you even got the nuts outside the Christians, and everybody's saying he's unholy, and you even got all that going on. So the whole thing was just the mayhem that is over the course of the year. Watching the album take off, it was so exciting, and then it was great to see that what we'd done in the studio, the songs were really paying off, and the time we'd spent on them was worth it. And because that's what we did, we really worked on them to get them right, and we were getting pressure from the record company, but we didn't fold, and we just made sure the record was right, and it paid off.
It really did. I mean, songs like Blue Highway, Do Not Stand in the Shadows, all those songs hold up and sound great. They really still do.
Yeah, we're still playing some of those songs today,
Which is amazing. It's so good. So you've lived here for at this point for quite a long time. California you were drawn to. First it was New York for a while, but then of course you came out here long before I did, but I definitely made it out to the West Coast finally and love it here. And I got to say, you've done many things over the years, but it's incredible now to see this period of time. First music in 7 years. You being grandfather now too, which I think is fantastic. And how proud you are. You see that online when you post, and that to me is a beautiful thing. I see that love of family that you have. I just think that's so cool. Did you ever see yourself years ago thinking back and going, oh, it's just amazing how far it's gone in this 40 years or so?
Yeah, well, no, of course, I never really imagined this part of my life at all, and but it's fantastic how it's all. My daughter is so happy. She's loving being a mum, and I'm enjoying being a granddad. So the little child's lovely, Poppy Rebel. Then my daughter's also pregnant with another baby girl, which she's going to have at the beginning of 2022. So I'll be a double granddad. So it's lovely. It's great because especially at the time she gave birth to Poppy during the pandemic, May 2020. So it was a great kind of counterbalance to all the confusion and all the terrible things you were sort of reading about. It was a beautiful, positive thing to watch a new life and watch her personality kick in and her loving and watch her love music. I watched her tapping her toe, moving her hips.
Yeah, that's so great.
And I go, I know those faces.
Those are faces your dad's made famous, or your granddad's made famous, which is a cool thing. I mean, I think it's great that we go back. Let's go back to those younger years. Obviously, you were there for watching Top and the Pops as a kid during that glam period where in Glitter, where you had Bowie and T-Rex and Mott and Slade and Gary Glitter and all those great records that were coming out at the time. What was it like for you? When did you realize, Billy, that your calling was, I want to do music, man. I love this. Not just out of necessity, but you were just drawn to it. How old were you? What were those records or bands?
Well, initially, I mean, I sort of was at 6 years old. I fell in love with the Beatles, really, and I bought "She Loves You" with my own money, 6 shillings and threepence halfpenny it was. That's how much. I was going to buy it from Me to You, but it's slipping down the charts, and I didn't have quite enough. I was my own pocket money I was buying it with, so I only had half the money. So, but yeah, it started off with that, and just watching. There were great sort of programs on British television, actually, like Ready, Steady, Go was this great program in the early 60s where you could watch sometimes live. There was like Ready, Steady Beatles, they were live, Ready, Steady Who, live, Ready, Steady Stones, live. Yeah. And then they had all the sort of soul bands, all the Stax bands and the Supremes, the Four Tops, and the Temptation. They had all these. So and British radio too. It was this smorgasbord. It wasn't just one thing. You sort of tended to hear everything. So that was kind of an incredible kind of be able to grow up with all that around you. And then all the music coming from America and the British invasion going the other way. It was just so exciting. But so it led you down this path, and then the prog rock happening, and Led Zeppelin and everything. Even that was like, wow, this is music revolution happening in front of your eyes. And then us getting into punk, and then starting to realise if we get the chance, this is what we'd do. Because, you know, all the stuff they'd done in the 60s, the concept albums and everything, I mean, it was all like, wow, how'd you beat that? How'd you go one better? Well, the only way to do it was to dumb it down, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and that's what punk was almost all about. It was like kind of a reaction to all the prog rock and everything. But that was what was great. It was the music we could do. It was our statement. It was what we could do at our, you know, we were 18, 20. What were we going to say? And punk rock was it. And then we could add to this thing that we loved in a way. And I know a lot of the English bands, because it was year one of a revolution, were kind of being a little bit, you know, no Beatles, Elvis, or Rolling Stones. I totally understand that. But, you know, the American bands like the Ramones, I mean, they're named after Paul McCartney and Paul Ramone. So there was this funny thing, the American bands loved the old 60s bands, and we had this funny disconnect in England. But, you know, that's I'd grown up with it, and I loved the Velvet Underground and people like that as well. So it was this, you know, a love of sort of classic rock as well as loving punk rock and stuff, and wanting to put all that together in a way.
Yeah, and that's what you do now with your music and have done like since you've gone solo, which I think is really great. And speaking of the punk rock thing, during that revolution that was incredible, Mark Bolan of T-Rex, before he died, had this show Mark, and he had a few bands that he really wanted to champion at the time, and Generation X was on that show. You guys did Your Generation, your very first single. Tell me about that experience. Was he really about nurturing what was going on at that time?
We actually got up to, it was up to Manchester where they were recording this TV show he was doing, half-an-hour show once a week. And we got up there to Manchester, but our gear didn't arrive. So Mark was standing there with us. We were all just standing there talking about whatever, you know, shooting the breeze or whatever. And then the producer came out, Muriel Young, saying, that's it, they're not on the show. I can't have them on the show. Their gear isn't here. I can't have people unprofessional. That's it. I don't care whether... And Mark said, hold on. If they're not on the show, I'm not doing it. And she said, but I've got David Bowie coming from Switzerland to, you know, he's doing Heroes for the first time. I don't know. And Mark said, look, hold on. Just calm down, Muriel. You know, look, I'll lend them my Cherry Red Les Paul. I'm sure we can hire a drum kit, and maybe one of the other bands will lend us a bass or something. We can make this happen. So that we wouldn't have been on that show if Mark hadn't have said that, because he could have easily have turned to us and said, sorry lads, your gear's not here.
Yeah.
I've got David Bowie. You know, I've got other people on the show. He could have easily nixed it, and he didn't though. He you know, he made it happen. And we were on the show, and then of course, in that 2 weeks before the show aired, Mark died in a car accident. And of course, everybody in Britain, not only was David Bowie doing Heroes, so he hadn't been on TV for a couple of years in England. Everybody was going to watch it, not only for David Bowie, but now because of Mark had just literally the week that it was on, a couple of days before it played, he died. So everybody saw us playing live, and that's the other thing too. It was our first time playing live on TV, doing our first single, that's huge for us. So thank you, Mark. And it just showed you his commitment to music, to other musicians, to the new thing that was happening. He was, you know, he took the Damned on the road with him. He put the Jam and us and other people on his TV show. So he really cared about other music, and it was fantastic to see that, because that's what you wanted to believe.
Yeah.
About those sort of people who'd come out of the 60s and who loved music themselves and made it their life. You wanted to believe that they cared just as much about us up and coming as their own careers, you know, and he did.
Yeah, that's a great story. That's amazing. Mark was incredible, and I love that performance, you guys. You were just kids at the time, just doing it.
Really, yeah, just teenagers almost. You know,
Yeah,
it was just early 20s. I was 20 years old. You know.
Yeah, it's incredible, Billy. So let's last question is to talk about the EP right now. Tell me about the other 3 songs quickly. I know because I know you were running against some time here, but talk to me about the other 3 songs. Can you tell me about those?
Well, Rita Hayworth is a little bit about Hollywood, about the sort of Harvey Weinstein thing and everything. It's a little bit about the sort of abuse that goes on in the acting world and everything. And so it is a little bit in support of Me Too and Time's Up. It is not just a little bit, it's in support of Me Too and Time's Up. I mean, I was kind of writing the songs, like I say, my daughter had just given birth to Poppy and everything, and now I'm having this second grandchild. So, you know, I was thinking about the future and about how I was glad something like that was happening, so that they may not have to face that in the future. But then the other two songs were a bit more. You don't have to kiss me like that, but if you do, it's all right. It's just a kind of a really fun song, and Butch was really up for a song like that.
Yeah.
And then Baby Put Your Clothes Back On. It was like, well, let's write the alternative Billy Idol. Instead of I'm going to rip my clothes off with your teeth. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Well, what if you've got a relationship with a friend, girlfriend or whatever, and you always kind of fancied her, but you've got this really solid friendship. Do you want to ruin that?
Yeah.
By sort of taking it into the sexual domain. So it's just sort of the opposite, how can we write a different version of a Billy Idol song?
Yeah.
So, but there again on You Don't Have to Kiss Me Like That, but if you do, it's all right. It's kind of got suggestive lyrics, so it's kind of got... Some people said about Kings and Queens of the Underground, you don't have a kind of a fun, sexy, you're just... You don't have a You're Gonna Kiss Me Like That, it's all right song. So we deliberately did that. And I think that's the thing about the EP. It's got an eclectic nature. It's not just one thing. There's something different about each song. And some, like a couple of the songs do like look back a little bit into my career, but then some things like Bitter Taste and Rita Hayworth look forward, as well. I think they take us forward into where we're going as well.
I think that's great, and makes us look forward to the next record. Butch Walker producing it, great producer, great guy. Sam Hollander you worked with, a lot of the people that you were getting involved with.
Sam was fantastic, that's right, and you couldn't work with better people, and we worked with these other songwriters, Tommy English and Joe J, and it was really good fun. We just had a great time, and and it was so great balancing off against the coronavirus that we were doing something positive, something we loved, something that would live on whatever happened.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm really excited about the EP being out. And Billy, I got to thank you for coming by and spending some time with me. It's great just to see us come full circle. Me as the kid in high school, the Generation X, Gen X fan, and here we are all these years later doing an interview probably a good 40 years from the first time we did one. And
wow.
Seeing you in
Who
those...
could have imagined that?
Yeah, who would have thought we'd be here doing this at this point in time in our life? But it's beautiful. It's one of the best things about being alive.
That's right.
It really is. I'm alive, sober, happy, and like you said, you're a dad now. I got 2 daughters, so I agree that subject matter of that song, that's really important. I'm going to be excited to hear that as well. Thank you for spending the time, Billy.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
It's great to have you.
Thank
Billy Idol. So awesome to have him here on KLOS, new and approved. The new EP is called the Roadside EP. Make sure you get that however you consume music, whatever you do, whether you stream, CD, vinyl, any way it's available. I'm sure you'll love it. I'm Matt Pinfield. Thanks so much for watching us here on KLOS.